Arsenal move 5 points clear once again at the top of the Premier League with a big win over Brentford. But at the end, we're left with the question, what did it cost? This is today's Arsenal Raw Reaction Show. Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys and girls for another episode of what is indeed our Raw Reaction Show, joining you every single morning after the night before, where Arsenal, of course, have featured in a positive fixture, particularly yesterday evening. A positive night overall for Arsenal as well, with other sides comically being held or even being beaten after weekends where people thought they were actually more so in a title race than actually it turns out they were. But Arsenal managed to get a 2-goal win over a B side who have proven a challenge over recent seasons. Before this game, Brentford had managed to draw 2 of the last 3 visits to the Emirates Stadium, but that was to stop here. And Arsenal getting those 2 important goals, an early goal from Mikel Merino and a winning goal from Bukayo Saka, proving the difference on the night. I hope you're doing good. I hope you're doing well in our chat box today. Thank you so much as always for joining us every single morning. Mandy, Knowledge, we've got Arasilki and Brian, we've got Prince, we've got Paul, we've got Yanis, we've got Mohammed in the chat, we've got Paul and Rich, we've got Canoe and Barry. Good morning to you, to Tabani, to Sid, good morning to Glenn and Nigel, good morning to John and DJ. We've got Manny and Snake Eyes in the chat as well. Good morning to everybody joining us. Really appreciate you listening and tuning in. And as I say, I hope you are indeed doing good and well. And if you could drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new around here with those notifications turned on so you never miss a show, that would be greatly appreciated as well. But let's jump into today's slides. And of course, we begin with an overall look at what was an important victory. A game that sat for Arsenal in a difficult place this midweek. Following that draw to Chelsea, you want to find a response. You want to find a recovery and a return to winning ways. And so that's why when you see questions about Arsenal's mentality, every single time, the 4 times, and it is only 4, that Arsenal have failed to win so far this season, as they take their unbeaten record to 18 games, you find yourself looking back at every single time Arsenal failed to win. And do you know what every single time Arsenal have done? They followed that game up with a victory. And they did that once again here. Important goals at important times. Some nervousness, certainly, I think, spread throughout the game as Arsenal held that 1-goal lead for quite a long period of time and into the second half. But what was key about this game is that Mikel Arteta was able to make some changes, to rest some stars. We saw that Bukayo Saka, who scored that late goal, was rested. Manu Madueke was the man brought on to start on that right-hand side. We then saw Ben White come in for Jurriën Timber and Martin Odegaard come in for Eberechi Eze. And we saw plenty of rotation there. We saw other players come on later on in the game. Victor Gyökeres replacing the sadly injured Declan Rice. We'll talk about him later on in this game as well. And of course, we also saw Jurriën Timber being replacing Christian Mosquera, who we'll also talk about in a little bit as well. Calafiori managed to avoid the fateful yellow card, as did Zubimendi, in what is a really positive outcome, and they will be available for the next game against Aston Villa. But there were some downsides to the game. But the man, the myth, the legend that is Mikel Merino managed to score the goal on the night. And it comes courtesy of some fantastic work from that brand new look right-hand side. A brilliant backheel flick from Noni Madueke, setting up the overlapping Ben White to find one of his trademark dinked crosses. The Spaniard was like, thank you very much. And a powerful header down past Cohen Kelleher to score Arsenal's opening goal of the game as well. Brilliant result. Brilliant performance again from Merino, who had an involvement later on in the game that we will also come to. And I want to focus in here at this point on Ben White, because Ben White has had to wait an awfully long time to play for Arsenal. In fact, this was just his second game of the season for the Premier League. He hadn't started a Premier League game since the first game of this season at Old Trafford. Suffered that knee injury, had to come off. Very, very, very frustrating season so far. And to come in and have that performance was just simply excellent. really positive from him. And I think obviously he will be delighted in the knowledge that he's managed to put in a performance of such a level in that particular moment. Mikel Arteta was asked about Declan Rice was asked about Ben White after the game as well, in which he gave his thoughts and feelings on a performance. And what I loved about what Arteta said during the game was, or rather after the game, was that he spoke about the importance of defenders loving to defend. I think it was Isan was asking the question around, have you missed what he has brought in those attacking areas? And he said, no. The first thing is a defender defends and defends with that purpose, with that determination and efficiency. And he's done that today. And then if he can add the value that he can add with the ball through his passing, through his movement, and through his deliveries that he can put in with quality that he has done, so be it. Today, I think he's done both very well. Arteta wants defenders that love defending first. That is the requirement. That is the first thing you need, is to love defending beyond anything else. And Ben White has, I think, in recent times, somewhat struggled a bit. I think that he struggles somewhat in these elements of the game to consistently find the level that he was finding a couple seasons ago defensively. And that his kind of work in the final third has overtaken what we're seeing from him in his own third. So to see a really balanced performance from him in this game, where he provided excellent defensive solidity and then also the vital attacking threat as well, was great. Really strong performance. And that he was awarded man of the match by Sky. I gave mine to Declan Rice personally, but he would have been a worthy nomination for that award, certainly. But Arsenal nearly concede pretty soon after they actually take the lead in this game. It comes from a corner. Kevin Schade with a very, very good header. Managed to beat both Calafiori and Zubimendi to the header. And it's on David Raya here to produce an absolutely stunning save. Like, we talk about David Raya and his goalkeeping ability and where he ranks among Arsenal's best ever goalkeepers. He's right up there. And it's moments like this that keep Arsenal in the lead and also keep their clean sheet records. This was the 8th, I think, clean sheet of the Premier League season so far. We have 14 games so far, Arsenal, and they've managed to keep 8 clean sheets as well, which is really, really impressive. Very, very impressive indeed. Excuse me. I thought I pressed the mute button, then I pressed the wrong button. But yes, I think it was a really, really impressive performance overall from Raya. I thought his distribution was really good. There was a couple of fantastic passes, kind of out switched to that right-hand side where Bukayo Saka picked up the ball. Really, really strong performance from David Raya. And he's not often called upon in these moments. He's not often called upon to produce these amazing saves. But when he has a great consistent record in producing these moments. His save percentages is up there with some of the absolute best in the world of football in his position. And this was a really important clean sheet as well, I think, for Arsenal. I asked Arteta after the game that there was a clean sheet for the first time since the Slavia Prague game. 5 goals conceded in those games since then. It was a big moment when you broke that record for clean sheets back in November. I guess now for the first time you want to start that record again, and it was important to keep a clean sheet. And he says, yeah, we talked about it. I think it was 4 games that we didn't manage to do that for different reasons. We conceded from a set piece against Chelsea and against Sunderland as well. The other ones are a little bit different. Today we probably should have conceded a goal. If it was not for David as well, the save that he made, I think from that we didn't really concede that much. And it's true. And I think Arsenal do need to rediscover the way in which they will find this rhythm of clean sheets again. It became almost something of a badge of honor for Arsenal during that period where we got, 10 clean sheets in a row? Something like, I can't actually remember the title of it, but it was the most clean sheets Arsenal have kept since 1903 in a row across all competitions, which is rather impressive when you think about it that way. So making sure that we kept a clean sheet was very, very, very important in this game going into the weekend. But this is the first of 2 downsides in this game where, again, Arsenal have suffered another Another injury. And it's another injury that's, again, a really unfortunate one. I mean, Arsenal's luck is a joke, quite frankly. It's really, 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 for me, baffling, the misfortune, because you look at the number of unlucky injuries. Like, we can talk about like hamstrings going, calves going. Like, we can talk about Declan Rice. That comes from the amount of running that he's done. There's no doubt about that. The calf, the tightness that he was feeling, and we'll talk about that later. That's from running. That's from fatigue. This one is just Mosquera jumps in the air, lands awkwardly, and jars his leg. We don't know the details of the injury yet. I asked Arteta for the specifics after the game, and he said, yeah, we have to wait and see. It's probably part of the knee or the ankle. We don't know. He could not really tell us exactly how it was, but he wasn't able to continue. So we'll hear more from Arteta on Friday. But, like, unfortunately, it is... You start getting these silly comments like, unfortunately, Yaku says here, it's the training pitch. This is nothing to do with training pitches. This is nothing to do with volume of games. This is nothing to do with training intensity or running players into the ground. He's jumped into the air. He's gone for an aerial challenge, and he's landed awkwardly, and he's jarred his leg. It's one of those really unfortunate things and bad luck. Now, the hope is that, of course, Saliba is going to be back for the game at the weekend. Arteta said that it'll be a matter of days. Well, it's been a matter of days. So hopefully Saliba will be able to train ahead of the game. And, of course, we'll hear from Mikel Arteta tomorrow. It's mad that I'm saying tomorrow. It shows you how short of a time there is between these games. But, again, I have to stress this. I have to continue to stress this because it's nuts to me that people continue. I mean, Mosquera has not played loads of football this season. We're not talking about fatigue here. We're not talking about a player that's being overplayed. It is mad that people somehow still fall into this conspiratorial trap when a player has jumped into the air, landed awkwardly, jarred his leg, and, it's the training pitches. Even Avanab here has something to do with the training that we do. What on earth? I mean, please explain to me. Instead of people spewing, and I know that people get annoyed with me for, like, getting annoyed and focusing in on these comments. But I get annoyed at these comments because people just waffle absolute crap about these injury things. Please, can somebody explain to me how you find that a player jumping into the air, landing awkwardly, which can happen to anyone, you, me, a footballer, whatever, jars their leg, how you can somehow link that to the training? Please tell me. I'd love to know how on earth the synapses in your brain are coming to that end result, because I have absolutely no idea how you are coming to that. Explain to me how a clash of knees that Ødegaard suffered that led to an MCL problem is to do with the training. Explain to me how Manuel Ugarte sliding into Kai Havertz and twisting his knee is to do with the training. Explain to me how Noni Madueke tweaking his knee in a game has something to do with the training. Can you please explain to me what on earth training or pitch hardness has to do with a player landing awkwardly after a jump to win an aerial battle? Please explain to me. Because if you can't, shut up. Because you have no idea what's going on. And all that people are doing is spreading misinformation and making others, impressionable others, believe this rubbish as well. It is so silly. Just screw your head on a bit tighter and get some common sense, because it's so irritating having to constantly explain to people why things like this have nothing to do with hardness or training or fatigue. There are injuries that have things to do with that. There are injuries that you can point to which go, that player's playing too much. Saka's hamstring last season was a great example of that. Declan Rice's calf injury could be another great example of that as well, the minutes that have been played. And I'm critical of that one because I personally feel Rice should have come off earlier in the game against Spurs the other week, and maybe we would have protected him a little bit more. I'm not critical of him not coming off in this game because, quite frankly, at 1-0, we still needed him on the pitch. But the reality is that we could have done more before this game with Declan Rice, and we'll come on to him again. I've probably kind of already covered him, but it's just stuff like this. When you see Mosquera get injured, when you see Ødegaard get injured, when you see Kai get injured, when you see Madueke get injured, and you get those awful knee injuries, which are just kind of tweaks that have happened in a moment that could happen to anyone at any time, no matter how much football they've played, And somehow people go, training pitches. It's mad to me how you would ever want to look that silly. Anyway, Calafiori, for me, had a really, 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 really strong game as well. And I am so pleased because I was a little concerned. You know, when you see somebody who's going into a game on 4 yellow cards, you have to be a little bit worried about the risk of him playing. I understand why he was picked. He was in my starting 11 as well. The long throws from Coyote were always going to be an issue. And to start Miles Lewis-Skelly in this game, I think would have been a bit of a mistake. So I'm quite glad that Calafiori did indeed start and had an excellent game. Arsenal should have scored twice as a result of Calafiori's efforts in the final third. 2 really good moments where he picked up the ball around the edge of the box. 2 good shots that forced 2 good saves from Calafiori. And then he put into a position where Saka should have scored. Merino could have probably done a bit better. That was from Declan Rice's shot. But there's another one as well on the left-hand side where then Merino, I think, tries to win a foul. I don't think it's a penalty, but see why he tried to win it. But yeah, Calafiori had a really, 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 really good game. And I think Saka absolutely has to finish the chance from that other shot right towards the end of the second half as well that he doesn't. Sorry, the caption for some reason is off on that one. But Declan Rice, of course, did go down with an injury in this game. And it kind of happened out of nothing. It wasn't like involved. From what I could see anyway, you have more of a benefit of the television screens than I do at times, and especially like the overhearing of the commentary as well. But he goes down in a moment. I think it comes from just constant running. He just runs so much, constantly running, really, really frustratingly so at times because it's brilliant. It's world class, but you can just see him. He's going to get, you're wondering how on earth has he not got injured? I was talking to somebody the other day saying, is he just one of those players that just plays every game? Is he one of those players that even when he gets a little bit of a problem, he just carries on and plays the next game? Now, I will say that he walked out on the field after the end of the game and walked around the pitch very comfortably. He was walking around shaking hands with the other players. He applauded the team afterwards as well and the fans as well. So, yeah, hopefully it's not too bad. But I do think that, again, I lean back on those games in the past where I'm critical of Arteta not bringing off players in moments where I think we can bring them off. He didn't need to come off in this game. I know it's hard to say that after the back of an injury here, but, you know, when you've seen him play the games he's played, you're not really expecting him to go off with an injury like this because we've just not really seen it. So against Spurs, I keep coming back to this game because I think it's the best example so far. But you're 4-1 up in the 74th minute. Take him off. Bring Norgard on. You don't need to play him the full 90 minutes when you've got a 4-1 lead after the 74th minute. You can bring on Norgard. You don't need to do it. In this game with the goal, with the scoreline at 1-0, I can absolutely understand why he's still on the pitch. And he was my man of the match. He was absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And with the margins as fine as they were, at a 1-goal scoreline, you can't really bring him off. And there wasn't really any signs at that point that he was going to need to come off either. So for me, I've not got an issue in this game with how Rice was managed. I've got an issue in the Spurs game with how Rice was managed. That's the differentiation, the difference between those two games where I take problems. But for me, he was man of the match. Ran all day. Fantastic shot that Merino probably should have done better with on the rebound. There was a great drive into the box in the first half that he probably should have taken a shot at earlier, one touch earlier. He could have had a great shot on goal. Ran the game. Brilliantly breaking up play. Man of the match all day long. And then, of course, Saka does win it. And Arsenal, of course, as Brentford try and find their late equaliser, left themselves open. Merino picks up the ball. Great pass through. Saka, you think he's going to run clear and shoot with his right. Obviously, he's going to cut back onto his left. Finds the power in the shot. Too much for Calafiori. And obviously, in that moment, the ball drops in just over the line and the Irish goalkeeper cannot do enough to get his fingertips to it in time. Gyökeres looks fuming, by the way. I don't know if you've ever watched the replay yet, but Gyökeres is absolutely fuming that he's not been squared the ball. he's also so kind of determined, Gyökeres, to score that even though the ball's gone over the line and the ball kind of moves away, he's then sprinting towards the ball before he realizes the actual ball has been given as a goal. I don't really care about that. Saka scoring is all that matters. The goal is all that matters. But it was a really interesting question from Art Arderosha during the post-match press conference, where he asked basically about this idea of the tension. There was some tension in the game where there was a second goal. He says, in terms of the 90 minutes today, how did you assess it? Because it felt at 1-0 down. It seemed there were times where the players couldn't get that, that second goal. They maybe wanted to keep the 1-goal lead. And when the game was getting open and it seemed to be a bit tense, how did you feel about that? And Arteta said, yeah, I think we had 3 big chances to put the second one in. We didn't do it. And then when we were going for the second one, the game became a little open. We started to be a bit late in certain moments in the high press. They break it and the pitch is stretched. And then we needed to be a bit more compact. But I think we need to. I think we went through that period really well, and we started to take the ball and do what we had to do with the ball in terms of bringing the momentum down, bring the composure and the ball to the areas that we wanted to attract them, and to use the open spaces that they left and score the second goal, which was really important. I think for Arsenal, you're looking at this and you're looking at the openness of the game when we tried to find that second goal. There was a tension building in that moment. And it was so important that we got the first goal. And you think that when you get the first goal quite early, it's going to open the floodgates. But it opened up the game for Arsenal. We had chances. We should have been 2 or even 3 up before Saka scores the second goal in the game to take 3 points. But Brentford are a very good outfit. They are a very good defensive unit. They're very threatening from set pieces. It's a really good point. It's a really, 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 really good point. So, a 3 point, sorry, from this fixture that Arsenal have claimed, and getting the winner at the end was really, really good. So, yeah, Arteta made reference to the schedule at the end of the press conference. He was asked, do you feel that what's contributed to Declan's injury is the schedule, basically? And he said, probably, I'm doing my best impression of Sean Dyche at the moment, by the way. I've not got the best voice this morning. Probably it's not one thing, but we can help the players and everybody in the league and everybody to do what we have to do. Give us another day, especially the teams that are playing so much in Europe. To everybody in general, I think we can do that because we're going to benefit from it. We've never had such a schedule at every level, not only in the Premier League, but every competition internationally as well. So we need to try and do that, please, he says. I think it was Jack Rosser of The Sun was saying, I'm sure you've made the argument for a few years, a lot of managers have, but do you ever feel like, and he cuts it and says, it's not an argument. I think it's common sense. I think it's not at some point this becomes too much, you know. And the players are not the machines, but we have to try and do that when we can as well. It was and is still really irritating. It's really frustrating, the fixtures. They didn't need to put Arsenal's game at a Wednesday 7:30 kickoff and then a Saturday lunchtime. I mean, at the very earliest, the game should be Saturday evening. At very, very earliest, it should be a Saturday evening that Arsenal play their game against Villa. But it should be a Sunday game. They've got a Wednesday Champions League game, so they can play on the Sunday. Why we're playing Saturday lunchtime makes no sense. It's just baffling. The only benefit Arsenal have got is that Villa played the same time as we did. So both teams are in the same boat in that regard, which is obviously a good thing. At least I hope it's a good thing. So let's round up the other fixtures, shall we? As Fulham were so close to getting a result, as we said yesterday, against Man City, 5-4 defeat. Bournemouth losing at home to Everton. Newcastle drawing 2-2 with Spurs. But we move on to yesterday's games that, alongside Arsenal beating Brentford 2-0, we've got Brighton and Aston Villa. Brighton taking a 2-goal lead in that game before Villa come back to win 4-3 on the day. Villa are now in a great run of form. I think they've won 9 of their last 10 games. Very impressive indeed. Arsenal now go to Villa Park. They've rested some players. Villa didn't rest too many of their players. Emi Martinez might be injured for this game. Still don't know if he's going to be fit, but Ollie Watkins has found his form. Donyell Marlon looks in great form as well. Anana getting the other goal in that game too. They are a very good side, and they could move within 3 points of Arsenal if they were to get a win, which wouldn't surprise people, I don't think, hugely. They've been very good at home in particular. But Villa would obviously move 9 points behind them if they were to win. Wolves lost 1-0 at home to Nottingham Forest. Shock horror. Crystal Palace with Daniel Munoz. If he's not in your fantasy team, I don't know what you're doing at this stage. 1-0 win for them. And Liverpool draw 1-1 at home to Sunderland. Right, let's quickly go to part 2. Well, we're going to laugh at Chelsea. I'm not going to make you play it twice. But what a fantastic victory for Leeds United. Absolutely brilliant. The timing of this could not be better. Just see all of the discourse after the weekend's game was glorious. Absolutely glorious. They gave that game everything. And I was saying at the weekend, and I was saying in a lot of podcasts, and I spoke to even some Chelsea fans on TalkSport about this, and people weren't having it. People were not having this, right? My point is that people were not being critical enough of Chelsea for this game. They will not get a better chance to beat us. They will not get a better chance to beat Arsenal than they got that weekend. No Saliba, no Gabriel, no natural centre forward. Shattered after the Bayern and Spurs games. 1 day less recovery than them going into this game. They had a great chance to beat Arsenal. They had a great chance to prove to people that actually they might be title contenders because they are so obsessed with telling people that they're not. And when you're so obsessed with telling people that you're not good enough for something, you fail. And you're not good enough because you're not in the title race, and that's why you go to Leeds and lose. Not only that, but another petulant foul that should have been awarded a red card. Esteval should have been sent off. I don't know if you've yet seen this challenge. It's awful. It's Enzo Fernandez inspired is what I would describe it as, who also had another game of just kicking people. I don't know if you've seen this, but there's a fantastic video doing the rounds of a Chelsea Twitter space where a Chelsea fan kind of goes into this mode of absolutely battering Moises Caicedo. And he's talking about how, like, I don't want to spend 150. If I spend 150 million pound on a player, I want to bring in a player like Declan Rice, who wins things in the defense, wins things in midfield, wins things in attack, does everything. You know, takes you to titles, takes you to wins. We've spent 150 million pound on a guy that kicks people, and I just thought that was amazing. Now, if you ever have a debate with anybody about the difference between Moises Caicedo and Rice, not only the fact that they play different positions, but who the better footballer is, Declan Rice is a level above Moises Caicedo. It's not a debate. It's just not a debate. Like, I think Moises Caicedo is still a great footballer, but there are levels to this, and Declan Rice is just a different level to that player. But the foul from Esteval that went unpunished in that game, how on earth at VAR haven't seen that as a red card is beyond me. I've seen some people try and compare it to the Miles Lewis-Skelly red card at Wolves. That wasn't a red card. There's a difference between a cynical foul, which is tripping someone over, and Esteval putting the studs down the back of someone's ankle forcefully, maliciously. He should have gone. I think he's a great, talented player, Esteval, and I think he's going to go and have a fantastic career. There's a lot of talent there. Unfortunately, he's at Chelsea, and I think that the influence of having players like Enzo and Caicedo around you leads you to having situations like that. It leads you to putting in those situations where you're just taking players out maliciously. How that wasn't a red card, I don't know. And while I'm on the subject of referees, I saw some people praising Tony Harrington yesterday, the official in the game. I'll be very honest with you. There were a couple of instances in the game yesterday that frustrated me. There were a couple of instances where fouls were given that I don't think were fouls. There was one on the right-hand side where I think it was Madueke was just kind of pushed over and nothing was given. There was another incident as well. Let me find it because it was in my matchday blog on the Football London website. So I think I put it in like in the blog like, what just happened? Because there was a moment where I couldn't work out. Madueke goes through on goal. Yes. So Madueke goes through on goal, right? The ball's kind of bouncing. I think it's Rico Henry. I might be mistaken. Apologies if I am. I think it's Rico Henry. The ball's bouncing. Madueke and Henry are kind of grappling a little bit. Henry loses Madueke. The ball bounced behind him. Madueke is through one-on-one on goal, and the referee blows for a foul. And I was like, what? why? And I looked back at the replay and I was like, oh, he must have been tugging him. Nothing. There was absolutely nothing in that challenge. And it was blown up as well. There was another shove on in Capia, as a lot of you are pointing out in the chat box in the moment as well. Also, that wasn't given as a foul. So I saw some people praising Tony Harrington. I just think personally, you've got so used to horrendous officiating from the likes of Anthony Taylor, like we saw against Chelsea, that performances like that are now seen as a positive thing. That wasn't a positive officiating performance. That still wasn't good enough. You know, that was the second time Tony Harrington has officiated Arsenal. Arsenal have won both games under him. Great record, cool. But we've done that in spite of some of the issues again. It wasn't a particularly great performance. It was a 6 out of 10 at best. It just wasn't good enough. And there was a moment where arguably Noni Madueke is robbed of a one-on-one situation. So still, yes, I'm moaning. I am moaning about these things. So the table, as it stands, the table, Arsenal are 5 points clear of Manchester City, 6 points clear of Aston Villa, 9 points clear of Chelsea. If you want a little bit of perspective about where Chelsea are closer in points to 15th place Fulham than first placed Arsenal. That's where Chelsea are right now. Closer to 15th place Fulham than first place Arsenal. So when you get any Chelsea fan trying to turn around and say to you that they are in the title race, tell them that your manager's been saying and telling you for a long time that you're not. And the reasons why he's telling you for a long time that you're not is because you're not good enough. You're not good enough. And you're not good enough because you don't believe you're good enough. And consistently he keeps telling them that. So yeah, next time you have an argument with a Chelsea fan, just remind them of that fact. When it comes down to Arsenal's position in this league, obviously it's very healthy right now. Our goal difference is also very healthy. The number of goals that were conceded is very healthy. We're closing in on a point that if Arsenal manage to keep 4 clean sheets in the next 4 games, or just 1 goal from the next 4 games, they are still on track to potentially break that amazing Chelsea goal record. But I think 7 goals conceded is a little bit too many at this point in time. I think we've conceded a few too many for that Chelsea record to be something that Arsenal could target, but who knows? Who knows what we can do with the games that remain? And there are 24 games left for Arsenal. So, yeah, still a long way. 5 games away. Sorry, not 4. 5 games away from the halfway point of the season. And Arsenal's game coming up over this festive period are probably what is going to define our season. Aston Villa away, Wolves at home, Everton away, Brighton at home, Aston Villa at home. We play Villa twice in the next 5 games. I think that is going to be a very important doubleheader for Arsenal's season before we go into the second half of the campaign. Amazingly, we still wouldn't have had played Bournemouth once in that time because of the craziness of the fixture schedule. We do play them on the 4th of January, the 3rd of January. And then we have that game against Liverpool on the 8th at the Emirates as well. So tough games, tough schedule, tough fixtures, but Arsenal, of course, welcomes back Victor Gyökeres, Gabriel Martinelli, Noni Madueke, Martin Odegaard. We have got this injection of quality back into the team again, and we were able to rotate, and we came out all the better for it, which can only be a good thing. And speaking of good things, if you want the best thing, the best VPN service, there is only one that you can choose, and that is the only NordVPN. I could do this with like a Sean Dyche gravelly voice, but it's improving a little bit. I say that now. I'm testing fate, but there's no woke nonsense when it comes to the brilliance that is NordVPN whatsoever. Make sure you go and get yourself a significant discount off a 1 or a 2-year plan and 4 months extra thrown in free on top of that too. NordVPN.com/Gooner is the link that you need. 30-day money-back guarantee on top of whatever it is that you sign up for, as long as, of course, it's included. So make sure you go and check it out. But you can change your geodigital location in any of the territories supported by Nord, and you can shield your data from snoopers and criminals as well. Fantastic stuff. Right, let's go to part what turns out to be 3, because we enjoyed our little laugh at Chelsea in part 2, right after this. I'm Batman. So I'm going down that Batman route now. The voice it's getting worse. I've got the water. That's going to get me through these next 10 to 15, 20 minutes or so as we go through as many of your questions as we can. So do bear with me. Apologies for the gravelly voice this morning. It wasn't like I was shouting or anything in the press box. I just woke up with one of those. When you wake up in the morning, you're just like, ugh, it's going to be a long day. I've got a day off though, so I can use the rest of the day to recover and rest as well. Right. Let's jump, shall we? If you've got a question that you'd like me to answer, throw a capital Q into the chat. I'll do my absolute best to go through as many of them as I can. I think, obviously, what I will say I think this is a bigger win than maybe we feel it is. I saw a tweet from Clive after the game. Clive, if you're watching, make sure you say hello. Where he took a lovely selfie of him sitting in his comfy club level seat. Oh, how the other half live, eh? I thought it was very right of him to point out that actually this was a big game. This was a big game. I think people are taking for granted a little bit how big of a win this game was. Brentford are no mugs. Their away record isn't great this season, but they've taken points off Arsenal in seasons where we've threatened a potential title race, and it has come crumbling down. Last season, they drew against us. In the 22-23 season, we had that awful moment where we went to go to play Man City, and a week before, we were top of the table, could extend our lead at the top of the table, and we draw at home because of that awful VAR moment. This was a big game. So soon after Chelsea, players, of course, players injured in this game. We scored early through Mikel Merino. This was a big game. This is an important 3 points. Don't underestimate it. It is really, really, really key. AC says the year is 2095. Football went extinct 30 years ago. They are reviving it, but you can only clone one past player for all of the 11 positions who are your top 3 to play a league of single clone teams. So you can only clone one past player for all of the 11 positions. Well, I mean, you're going to have to pick like the most versatile players ever. So Mikel Merino has got to be one. Calafiori has got to be the other. And I think Julian Timber has probably got to be the third, right? I think they're probably our 3 most versatile players. Trust me to pick 2 centre-halves and a midfielder, but that's just the way I look at football. I guess you could probably put somebody like... like Bukayo Saka, but still, I'd go with Calafiori, Merino, and Timber, and I reckon I'd win the league. That's what I'd go with. Rich says, which positions do you want to reinforce in January? Do we need anyone? I want Buadi, but only for the summer. I don't think we're going to sign anybody in January unless there's a really serious injury, and other than like maybe some younger players, but I could be surprised, but I just can't see it. Gunnar Max says, hi, Tom. What are the defensive options we now have after the Mosquera injury, considering Saliba and Gabriel are still injured? Saliba might be back. Fingers crossed that he is back. Arteta said a matter of days, and hopefully they've just taken the opportunity to rest him ahead of the game against Villa. So if it's not that, then it'll be the back 4 that we saw finish the game, which was White, Timber, Nkapie, and Calafiori. That will be what it is at Villa. If it's not, if we don't have any of the others, that is what it will have to be. Because I don't see Lewis Skelly coming in for that game. Harris says, I'm worried about Rice, the only player in our squad for whom we do not have a backup. I think Arteta should try to rest Rice in one of the champions. Oh, if Rice starts against Bruges, I will lose my mind. I will lose my mind if Rice starts against Bruges. Please, please. If he's fit to play against Villa, brilliant. But my word, if he starts against Bruges, I will lose my mind. Sonic says, when are people going to start talking about the fact that Arteta clearly doesn't trust Norgard? It's a problem. I don't think it's a problem. A problem is when you're conceding too many goals. A problem is when you have loads of injuries caused by muscular problems and fatigue. A problem is when you can't finish your chances. A problem is when your XG is lower than 0.1 in most of your games. A problem is when you're sitting closer to 15th than you are to first. That's a problem. The fact that Christian Norgard, who's been on the outskirts of the team for quite a while, is not getting enough minutes is not a problem. That's a concern at best. So I think you're clutching at straws for a criticism there. But at the end of the day, I think he'll probably play against Bruges. So let's wait and see. The foundation says teams are starting to respect us more. The manager of Brentford rested some of the players. I noticed that too. I noticed that with a game against Spurs at the weekend that he clearly sees as more winnable. I think Keith Andrews rested some players because he thought that it wasn't the game to risk everything. And actually, he was asked a question after the game about that and asked why he rotated players and whether or not it was to do with, in some ways, Arsenal being as good as they are and having a more winnable game against Spurs at the weekend. And to be fair to him, he said it's to do with everything. Like, he didn't decline that. He didn't turn that down. So, yeah, for me, difficult. I realised I didn't pick Declan Rice for that clone question. I probably definitely should. Gary says, if Mosquera is out for quite a while and Saliba doesn't make it in the next couple of games and he has no centre-back pairing, do we go and get a defender in the market? It will depend very much on how long Mosquera is out for, if long at all. If he's out for a long time, then yeah, I think you can probably argue that we can go and get another defender. If not, I'm not sure. Lee says, Tom, if we fail to win the title this season, it will not be Arteta's fault. To me, it's all down to the training pitch. Hussein says, are you buying Arteta's response about Mosquera's injury, claiming not even to be sure if it's his knee or his ankle? Probably not. No, I think we've learned enough by now that he knows more than he tells us. Hennesser says, is it unfair to say Merino as a substitute striker from the midfield should be finishing better? Is that even something on which we can improve? I mean, finishing what better? I mean, the chance that he had from the rebound, it's really difficult. His feet are caught. He's not right-footed. I don't think so. I think he's doing a great job. Wes says, morning, Tom. Arguably, the Villa game could be the hardest this side of Xmas. As long as we don't lose that game, we could be in a great position to be top at Christmas. Also, I tried emailing you, but it failed. Drop me a message on Discord, mate. You've got me on Discord. Drop me a message there. Chris says, hi, Tom. Anything from Mikel about Leo's return? Also, can we have a word about Zubi? I mean, Zubi's just so consistent. I found it really odd. I watched Alex's 11-1 rankings, and he had Zubi like 8th or something. Maybe that's because everyone else was great, but I didn't really agree with what you said about Zubimendi or Ødegaard for that matter. I thought both Ødegaard and Zubimendi had very decent games. I think that sometimes people just kind of look for the big moments and they forget kind of about the broader context of a player's game. Ødegaard was leading things. Sophie texted me during the game last night saying, this is why we love Ødegaard, because he is so important to the build-ups, the way we control the game, to transitions. And Zubimendi's the same. I think just because a player doesn't have like big moments doesn't mean they haven't had a good game. And both Ødegaard and Zubi had good games. So I always think that people maybe need to look deeper and rewatch games. I always recommend you rewatch games. But Leo, again, Arteta said matter of days. So hopefully he's back for the weekend. Fingers crossed he will be. Arnold says, Man City and Liverpool are both looking to strengthen in the winter. Both are targeting Guehi and Semenyo. If they get those, are they back? And should we be going for Semenyo? Well, let me ask you this. Liverpool spent £400 million in the summer. Have they been back? No. Manchester City adding Semenyo would be a really good signing for them. I don't think it necessarily improves them to a level where like you're going, oh my God, it's City. I think City are already very, very good. And those types of signings kind of push the needle a little bit, but their needle's already very, very high. Rev says, I think we need to sign a young backup for Rice, someone for the future rather than today. I think so too, but I think that probably happens in the summer, not January. The signature says, is this the best team chemistry you've ever seen? I noticed the players in rival positions applauding their competition for places. Example, Miles Lewis-Skelly congratulating Ricardo's post. This is unique. Everyone knows that this is the reality of playing for a team at the very top. If you want to play for a team that is starting and you're starting the majority of games or on the bench the majority of games, and you want to start the majority of games for a team that is at the top competing for everything, you have to accept that competition for places is going to be really tough. Really, really, really tough. That's the problem. So you have to accept that and you have to be part of this group. And there is a real unity about this team. And that's really important. Gareth says, I know we may not need him for a numbers standpoint, but if Skelly is a centre mid and by not using Hincapié and Calafiori as left back options and sign Mark Guehi as our rotation, he doesn't want to come, Gary. That's the problem. Mark Guehi wants to start every single week, and that's why, despite Arsenal having an interest in him, he's not going to play for us. He can start for Liverpool. He can't start for us, and that's why he won't come. Pablo says, Tom, do you think Ben White could play in the midfield? Nope. Eva says, Norgard was never going to be Rice's backup WTH. He was brought to rotate with Zubi. Exactly. I mean, if you thought Norgard came in to be Rice's replacement, I'm sorry, but you're mad. I would have brought Norgard on at the end of the game against Spurs for Rice, just to add a double pivot and give Rice a rest. Not because he replaces him position for position, but more because it's just about rest and rotation and seeing out a game. Anger Man says we have to stop Win joining in for training. We get so many injuries. Yeah, Win the dog. It's all about Win. It's all about Win. It's all Win's fault. The foundation says, why do a lot of you journalists get weak in the knees when asking questions? There is a lot of shaky voices in that room, is there? I don't think so. Finley says Zubia has been so much better than I expected. He's been amazing for us. One mistake, bar the Tottenham goal. Can't think of a foot he's put wrong other than that. He's a great player. He's been an upgrade on Partey. There's been no debate about that. Iron says, but as soon as the game became stretched, a little like basketball, he started to lose duels and balls, which was annoying versus Villa. We need the best against a very physical midfield. Who are we talking about? I don't know who you're talking about. Gary says, MLS, if MLS is a centre mid, why not using Capi and Calafiori there? Yeah, we kind of touched on that already, didn't we? I think you repeated the question. Let's scroll down a little bit more. Apparently today is Leo's birthday. Happy birthday, Leo. Is it Leo's birthday? Leo's birthday, December 4th. It was indeed. He has turned 31. Happy birthday. We're the same age, me and Trossard. We would be in the same year at school. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Said the sad old guy. Six says, if you are doing a survey on the factors causing injuries at Arsenal, are you dismissing the surface out of your research? I have done a survey into it by speaking to former players who have trained on that pitch, and their words are, it's not too hard. The whole hardness thing comes from a comment made by Ian Wright, who, if you remember, and you know who Ian Wright is, played on the training pitches a long time ago. He also didn't train properly on those pitches when he's actually been out on those pitches either. You also have to remember that those training pitches are designed to replicate the pitch at the Emirates as well, which is considered to be one of the best, if not the best, playing surface in world football. So the idea that people talk about the surfaces, my research is by speaking to people who actually have been on those pitches. So I know that they're not too hard because I've spoken to the people who train on them. Philly says, I think that's the biggest compliment. I don't even think about Partey anymore. Someone who was once a very important player. The foundation says, you are literally asking one, maybe two questions to another human being. Seriously, there is no need to stress so much. I don't know who's stressing. Who are you? Like, what are you in there? I don't think you're right at all in terms of that observation. That's a terrible comment. Tony says, please don't put MLS in defence. He's not a good defender. Neither was Zinni. I disagree with you, Tony. B1S is breaking. Declan Rice has told Sky Sports News Gary Culture that he is fine and will be available for Arsenal's trip to Aston Villa on Sunday. Is that true? Is it? Rice, fine, Villa. Let me see. I'll put those three words. Let's see if that's true. Declan Rice has told Sky Sports News he was fine. Is this coming from Grok? Oh, my goodness. Okay. Okay. So Sky Sports, he sold Sky Sports that his fine will be available. So, yeah, he said he's fine. Great. Positive news. Henna says, in your opinion, does only 8 goals conceded make Arsenal's defence the best in Europe? At least 2 of those 8 goals are unstoppable worldies as well. We've only conceded 7 goals in the Premier League, but I guess you're counting the Bayern Munich goal, right? So, yeah, 8 goals across all comps this season. Pretty incredible. I mean, how many games have we played? How many in the Premier League have we played? We played 14, 2 in the League Cup, 16, 5 in the Champions League, 21. 21 games played, 7 goals conceded. That's a goal every 3 games. So, I mean, wow. Amazing record. Yeah, without a doubt, we have one of the best. And we're missing Gabriel. We're missing Saliba. We're missing key players. It is mad that we are this consistent. So consistent. Mike says, Arteta has been really impressive this season. He's made some mistakes, but it looks like he's learning from them on the fly. I hope he can navigate this festive period as well. Just quickly, before I continue on with some of your questions, thank you so much for everybody who continues to listen to us on audio platforms. I know there's a lot of you watching on YouTube right now, but a lot of people listen to us on Spotify or on iTunes. And a lot of you have been sending me your Spotify wrapped for 2025. If you listen on Spotify, obviously, if you go on there or iTunes, you get kind of your summation of the year of the things that you've listened to the most, the artists, the music, the songs, and the podcasts that you've listened to the most over the course of 2025. And so many of you have sent already on Instagram or in the comment sections of YouTube if you've hopped over, or on Spotify as well. If TGT has been in your top 5, some of you have been in your top 1. which is amazing. So thank you to everybody that has supported the channel, that listens to us so regularly, and is very kind enough to reach out and let me know that we featured in the top 5. I think some people are even in like the top 0.5%, something crazy like that. So thank you to all of you that have listened to us on Spotify and listened to us there and listened to us on iTunes. And yeah, it is greatly appreciated. And when you kind of get that message, I'm one of those people that is flawed in the sense that I often focus on negative comments too much. I always focus on negativity in the sense of people like to be critical, people like to try and knock you down, people always try and take you down a peg, people trying to ask if you ask nervy questions in a press conference, people just focus in. The only comment that people might leave is a negative one, and it's really hard to sometimes not focus on that and instead focus on the really nice things that you say. So thank you so much for all of the nice comments that you leave. It means a lot. Because to be in the position where I'm doing this, to be able to talk to you as someone who's not perfect, who's someone who's, doesn't always do the right thing, doesn't always say the right thing, the fact that you keep coming back and listening and tuning in and saying these really nice things is really nice. So thank you. I just want to say a massive thank you again, always, for you saying the kind things that you do say. So I really appreciate it. And I can see a lot of you are now saying such things as well, too. So thank you for that. Tony says, Tom, because players are coming back, could this affect Dalman playing time? Yeah, without a doubt, it will affect playing. But he'll play more in the youth league. He'll play against Club Brugge, I imagine, in the youth league, and he'll get minutes. He's still only 15, and you need to give him the minutes. We've given him the exposure. He will get more time. League Cup coming up, quarterfinal, FA Cup starting in January. He's going to get minutes. Carl says, did you know Mikel Merino played 3 games as a centre-half for Dortmund? So no worries if Saliba and Mosquera aren't fit for Saturday. Maria says, TGT was number 2 for me only because my kids' trivia podcast came first. I also prefer watching on YouTube. Well, thank you, Maria. That's very kind of you. Gunnar Max says, thank you, Tom, for bringing content I can enjoy an immense day in, day out. Thank you, mate. Very kind of you indeed. Mike says, TGT is top. You're very relatable and you defend the club fervently as I do. I defend the club when they need to be defended. I'll be critical of them when I think they need to be criticised, but I'll defend them when I think they need to be defended as well. I think we're as balanced as we possibly can be. We're not perfect, but I think we're as grounded as we can be here. Wes says, having such a great quality depth in the squad is absolutely key for Arteta and utilising it as much as he can. I think he is doing that mostly, but still not using some players enough at times. I think that's probably fair. And I've criticised the subs at Spurs. I think there are improvements that can still be made. Snakey's been a member now for Snake Eyes, I should say, not Snakey. They're 2 very different things. Calling yourself Snake Eyes is fine. Imagine if you called yourself Snakey. That'd be a little bit different, wouldn't it? So, Snakey, Snake Eyes, thank you so much for supporting the channel over the last 14 months. Ad says, Tom, can you ask Arteta why players don't pass to Gyökeres? No, because with all the respect in the world, mate, that's just not true. It's just not true. You're not going to ask, why on earth didn't Saka pass to Gyökeres? Because he scored, mate. Well, that's what you're going to get. Come on, think about it. Nifty says, we only come back because you have a special guest like Sean Dyche. Keep up the work. Thank you, mate. Tony says, Tom, success breeds criticism. Brett, I've learned that that's a reality. I've learned that at the end of the day, some people just like to see the world burn. I've given you that example. We've done the whole 60-20-20 thing. 60% of people are genuinely good. 20% of people sometimes lose their way but can come back. 20% of people are just horrible. They're just born that way and you can't help it. And some people are just horrible. We'll just be horrible no matter what. And we'll say mean things no matter what. And you got to accept that they exist. I've learned to laugh at them. Me and a couple of listeners had a good laugh at one of them yesterday in the comment section. It was quite funny. Sometimes you've got to learn to laugh. But it's difficult. It's difficult. It says, Mandani, the new New York mayor, is a gooner, and Ian Wright sent him a video. He was well chuffed. I did see that. It was a great video. Finley says, I'll take this opportunity to say that you're fantastic at what you do, and there's a reason you've got to the position you're in. So many people tune in. Oh, this is getting... I'm going to go red in a second. Thank you. That's very kind. DDV says, Tom, you have a job that most fans would dream of. Any negativity is probably based in jealousy. Maybe, but maybe. Lucas says, Tom, Charles Watts gave Merino man of the match for a goal and an assist. Sky gave it to Ben White, and you've given it to Rice. Well, it shows you how good we played then, doesn't it? It shows you how good we played if 3 top tier broadcasters have given it to 3 different people. So, there you go. At least Sky is a top one. Michael says, "We love you, Tom. Well done. Please don't get injured." I'll tell you what, my left calf feels pretty tight this morning. The sentence says, "Tom, you're among a small group that have created an online community. You can see this when we all congratulate success." And I always say, a community is the best reflection of your work. If you look at a chat box on any channel, if I hop over to certain places, you'll see the love that they get. Your community is a reflection of you. And the fact that you're all, 99% of you are lovely people, I hope that's a good sign. I hope that's a good thing. Maria says, "Haters always going to hate. You're doing a fantastic job. You take things in balanced and refreshing ways. There's a reason we all come back every day." Thank you. Those listening back to this are going, "My word, this is a stroke in Tom's ego to the nth degree." Wes says, "So that means we're all amazing." Oh, you're all better than me. I should lay that out. Like, you're all way up here. You make me better. That's how this works. Jerome says, "Success comes with criticism and fake love. Just remember your why. Remember your why, and then you'll be fine. Always remember the why. It's really important. Yeah, it's something I always live by. Just remember the why. I think getting older definitely helps you ground yourself as well. In your 30s, you really do start to kind of think. You look back at your 20s and you go, you were a little sensitive so-and-so. I'm still a little bit of a sensitive so-and-so now, but I used to be way worse. 20s would just be like constant debates and arguments. I think in your 30s, you learn to laugh more. You learn to laugh more, I think, in your 30s at the things that you should laugh at. Gary says, "We will all be labeled as toxic positivity if someone came into this chat for the first time." And I think that there is such a thing as toxic positivity. And I think that I get criticism from both ends of the Arsenal spectrum, of uber positive to the point where they are toxically positive, to the other end of the spectrum, which just want to see the world burn. There's two ends to this. So yeah, I think you always got. I think when you're getting criticism from both ends of the spectrum, you're probably doing something right. You're probably in a good space. I've always been a bit of a centrist, so I think that works. That works pretty well for me. So Nicholas says, "Tom, please point out that if United win tonight, they are tied with Chelsea, and so we can all laugh at their title challenge." Phil says, "Tom, we have praised the ability to confront real issues. You're a great guy. Keep up the good work." Thank you, mate. Helicopter says, "You think now Merino is moved to a striker and maybe we're looking to replace?" It's actually a really good point. This is a really, really good point. So if Arsenal are thinking about adding a player, do we think now that Merino should be considered more of a centre-forward option, especially if Jesus is going to leave? Because if you've got Gyökeres, Havertz, and Merino, we probably don't need to sign a centre-forward, do we? We probably don't. But if Merino is becoming a centre-forward option for us on a genuine... I mean, I don't think there can be any debate about this. For the team that lead the Premier League and Champions League tables, Merino is scoring, assisting, having consistently impressive performances. We have to, I think of him as a centre-forward option. Like, we can replace Jesus probably with Merino, but it means then we need to replace Merino's absence as a midfield option. And for that reason, we probably need to go into the market in the summer and add another midfielder. That for me is the big signing I'm looking at for the midfield. As I'm looking, for the summer is a midfielder. That I think is quickly growing to become the next big signing. Is we need another box-to-box midfielder. So yeah, I think that's really important. Tony says, "Tom, I'm 68 and I'm a miserable sod. You've got a few years yet." Tony, you're 68 years young, my friends. Never forget that. You've got plenty of life to live. And don't take any of it for granted. Jerome says, "You're right about that, Tom. I'm 32 now and you do become more grounded. It's just maturity." Carl Water says, "You can pull a hair out of your ass, but you can't pull a rabbit." Very true. Gooner Dom says, "Tom, I want to apologise. I had a bit of a run-in with you in the summer regarding transfers on X. You called me out on a stream too afterwards." But yeah, apologies. Did I? I apologise for calling you out, Dom. I don't remember that. Let me know what your handle was and I can go back and look at how mean I was. So apologies if I was mean. It's the summer window, I find, is always the most... It shouldn't be, because it should be when the season's going. But for me, I get so frustrated over the transfer window because do you remember, right? Think about, if you reflect on the summer that we had, think about the summer that we had with the 8 signings, nearly £300 million. I mean, £260 million plus Nkapie's loan with the option. Think about the summer that we ended up having. Now, cast your mind back to when I came back from Canada at the end of June, when we had signed, when we hadn't yet signed anybody. We were just about to sign Kepa and Norgard, and there was one other player. Who was the other player that we were going to sign? Zubimendi. Those were the 3 players that we looked like we signed. We hadn't signed any striker yet. We hadn't signed any attacking player yet. Then it emerged that we were going to sign Madueke. And we were like, I don't know. Kepa, Madueke, it's 2 Chelsea players. Zubimendi, we knew that was happening for ages, so it's not exactly a surprise. Norgard replacing Jorginho. I remember doing shows at that time. I remember the vitriol. This wasn't a nice place to be at 8 a.m. in the morning. This was not a nice place to be. And I think when we reflect now on that window, we have to take that as a learning curve. To think about how July was starting and think about how the window ended and what window we ended with 8 signings: Gyökeres, Eze, Madueke, Mosquera, and more. I think about what we ended up with. I mean, that's got to be a lesson to us, right? That in July, even at the start of August, that we're not going to lose our heads. The transfer window was so toxic at the start. It was so toxic, and people just have no patience these days, and it sucks. It sucks. It is part and parcel of the world, like the pay-to-win culture. It is so irritating. I think it bleeds into our discourse about the summer. Shonita says, Tom, have you noticed how even Arteta's outers are not even crashing out? They are even defending Arteta on every platform. I'm just waiting for us to get to Christmas so Shane can come back on. I don't agree with the way you ended your comments. I don't think that's very nice. But what I will say is that, that conversation I had with Shane, and I've got a lot of time for Shane, and I think that that podcast that me and Shane did together was a really good example of how 2 people who have 2 very, very different views, maybe we've thought things about the other person, where 2 people can sit down and have a chat. And there's not enough of that these days, because the world's, you used to just go to the pub, have a pint, sit down, have a chat about the differences in your opinion, because that's where you would do it. There were no phones, there was no social media, no podcast, no silly little guys sitting in a hat at 8 a.m. in the morning every day having a chat about football. And while I know that not a lot of you agree with what he said, and that's absolutely fine, people are entitled to different opinions, I thought that was a great example of 2 people being able to sit down with 2 very different views, with views of one another that weren't exactly always the best, and have a genuine chat about Arsenal, because that's the thing that we both love beyond anything else, hopefully other than our other halves. So yeah, look, I think that is, for me, that was a really good show. And look, whatever happens, I would welcome Shane back on the show again in the future at whatever point of the season. Look, I absolutely would love, if we won the league, to have Shane on the show, because I'd be genuinely curious to see what conversation we would have in the context of Arsenal winning the title or whatever else they win this season, if they win something else this season. So I'd love to have that. I don't like that, Shawnita, that you ended that comment by calling Shane a fool. I don't think that's very fair. You might not agree with what he says, but come on. Just, kindness costs nothing. So, and even if you don't think that other people are kind, doesn't mean that you don't have to go and do the same thing. Yannick says, Gooner Talk is top 1 on my Spotify as well, even though I often listen to on YouTube. That's interesting, isn't it? So what happens? If you're a YouTube listener and yet on Spotify you're still getting a number 1? That's pretty crazy. So fair play. And it says, I'm a sewage worker in Denmark and can't watch the screen. Wow, you're doing a sort of favor, well, especially the Danes. But Yannick, thank you for your service, mate. People like you, they are underrated and they're really important to a society. So thank you for your work. Let's go to Nasir. Says, remember when fan base went, what, when we signed Madueke? Yeah, look, I said this. I think if you signed that petition, I mean, what on earth? What word can I use to describe somebody who signs, as an Arsenal fan, a petition when Arsenal was signing a player? When we signed Ramsdale, think about what happened in response. If you sent horrible things to Ramsdale or his family after he signed, you're a terrible person. If you signed a petition, you're a questionable person. If you graffitied Hornsey Road, you're an awful person. Now, you can have concerns and criticisms of the signing and then be like, oh, fair play. He's actually proven me wrong. You're not a terrible person. You're not even a bad person. You're a pretty good person. You know, the good people are those that can see that they have made an error, hold their hands up and be like, look, I've got that wrong. I've got that very wrong. So there you go. Iron says people lost their head as players complain about not having good pre-seasons and signings made late in the transfer windows don't have good opportunities for a pre-season, which is very important, like Isak and Victor. I mean, it's Arsenal are top. So, yes, people complained, but that wasn't the only reason why they were complaining. They were complaining because they're being hyperbolic. They're being over the top. They're being over-exaggerative. You know that. I know that. So let's not justify some of the hyperbole that existed. Yes, it would have been great if we could have had players in sooner, but let's be honest, we got loads of players in sooner, and some players you can't get in sooner. Some players, it takes time. That Victor Gyökeres deal took less than a month to complete in the end. We wanted Šeško. We all know that. Šeško was absolutely the number one target. Couldn't happen. They were asking for too much money. I'm still really, really intrigued to see how Šeško gets on. I don't think he's ever going to do at Man United what he could have done at Arsenal. I really would have been interested to see what Šeško would have done at Arsenal. It would have been very, very interesting to me indeed what he would have done. I don't think we can really judge him at United about what he would have done at Arsenal. It's impossible. So, yeah, look, I think that's important. Libak says, hi, Tom. When's the next phone-in call? It's always difficult to do phone-in shows at the moment because not only are my days off like today really busy at times. I know I'm going on a bit longer than I usually do today, but there's so many games. Like I'm in Bruges next week. Then we've got Christmas. So maybe that week between Everton and Wolves where there's no midweek game, maybe we can do a phone-in show at that point. I think I've got a day off or two in that week as well. So maybe that's what we need to do. Right. Iron says, oh, no, I'm not justifying it. I'm just saying that could be one of the reasons. That's fair enough. Fair play. Thank you for listening. Appreciate your time. Gone on a bit longer today than I usually do. So I was at one point over 1,000 of you listening. I think I waffled for a bit and we lost some. But thank you so much as always for listening. Appreciate all of you. As always, I hope you have an absolutely fantastic Thursday. Press conference tomorrow morning. There will not be a live show tomorrow morning. There may be a pre-recorded show tomorrow morning. Because the press conference is early again, so I can't do it. So apologies for that, but I need to be up at the presser for like 8 o'clock. So yeah, it's very difficult to do a live show from there. I'd love to be able to, but I'm not allowed for starters. Yeah, there'll probably be I'll try to get something pre-recorded for you if I can. So something goes out in the morning with for you all. Have a fantastic day. Enjoy yourself. Stay safe, stay well, stay happy and respectful. And as always, up the Arsenal.